Welcome to today's Explainer. We've got a truly incredible story for you today. We often hear that history isn't made by the dreamers, but by the doers, the people who actually roll up their sleeves and get to work. Well, today we're unpacking the journey of a boy named Michael from Texas who did exactly that. It's an absolute masterclass in grit, vision, and just sheer determination. But hey, to really grasp how high Michael climbed, we first need to look at where he started. No spoilers yet.
Okay, let's dive into this. Just take a second to wrap your head around that number. Over $1 billion. That is a massive valuation. Today, Michael is actually recognized as one of America's most successful young entrepreneurs. But to really comprehend the sheer scale of that billion-dollar empire, we've got to rewind the clock. We have to go back to a time when just paying basic college tuition felt like an absolutely impossible mountain to climb.
Section 1. A humble Texan beginning.
So Michael was born into a pretty typical working-class family. His dad worked these grueling, exhausting hours as a garage mechanic, and his mom spent all day on her feet working as a waitress. And despite working day and night, literally pouring everything they had into their jobs, the family's income was still incredibly low. You know the drill. By the time the end of the month rolled around, just keeping the lights on and the household running was a huge struggle. But Michael, he was a really perceptive kid. He watched his parents exhaust themselves day in and day out without really ever getting ahead financially. And one day, it just prompted him to ask his mom this beautifully simple but profound question: will we ever be rich?
Her response completely changed the trajectory of his life. She just smiled at him and said, "If you don't leave the side of hard work and honesty, one day you will definitely be successful." Now, that wasn't just some passing, feel-good advice. For Michael, it became this massive emotional anchor. He embedded those exact words deep in his heart. And as we're going to see, it essentially became the guiding philosophy for literally every decision he made from that moment on.
Let's move to Section 2, the grind and the hustle, and see how this actually builds. I really want you to visualize this for a second. While all the other kids in his neighborhood were out playing, just relaxing after school, Michael was out there hustling. He was mowing lawns, throwing newspapers, washing cars, basically taking on whatever odd jobs he could possibly find. But here's the real kicker. Every single penny he earned from these teenage hustles, he saved. Every penny. He didn't blow it on video games or whatever else kids buy. He was actively building a foundation, driven by this just absolute relentless work ethic. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. When he finally turned 18 and enrolled in college, he hit a wall. The fees were just prohibitively high. So what did he do? He pulled double duty. His days were entirely dedicated to his education, going to classes, studying. But his nights? His nights were spent sweating it out in a warehouse just to pay off those exorbitant tuition fees. He was literally pushing his mind and body to the absolute breaking point.
Section 3. The e-commerce leak.
Now, even during this incredibly grueling period, Michael kept his eyes open. He was super observant. And he noticed this massive emerging trend. People were rapidly shifting toward online shopping. So he identified a gap in the market. He realized, hey, if I can just supply the products that people genuinely need, I could actually build a real business here. But there was a massive catch. To pull it off, he had to take a colossal risk. He took literally all of his life savings, every single penny from mowing those lawns, washing those cars, and sweating in that freezing warehouse, and he poured the whole shebang into launching a tiny online store. He risked absolutely everything.
Section 4. Surviving the first failures.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how bad things got. His first month in business was, an absolute disaster. The actual orders he got were just this tiny, tiny fraction of his website traffic. The vast majority of his time was entirely eaten up by angry customer complaints and canceled orders. It was a remarkably terrible start. In fact, it was so bad that his friends were explicitly telling him to just pack it up. They were warning him, Michael, give up. This business is never going to work. And I think most people would have quit right then and there. But remember his mom's advice about hard work and honesty? Michael absolutely refused to throw in the towel. Instead, he engineered a total turnaround. Step 1, he actively listened to all those customer complaints. He didn't just ignore them or get defensive, he absorbed them. Step 2, he got straight to work fixing those exact mistakes. And step 3, he persisted. He worked continuously to iterate and improve the product.
He essentially built this real-time feedback loop that took his biggest failures and transformed them into his ultimate blueprint for success. Section 5, Success, Billions, and Giving Back.
Okay, this timeline compresses years of some really rapid evolution. Down at the bottom, we see where he risked his entire life savings. Then we move through those absolutely brutal month 1 disasters. But look right here at phase 3. Because he was constantly fixing complaints, his small store slowly but surely began to grow. Eventually, it became incredibly popular all across America. Suddenly, it's like a wildfire. He's employing hundreds of people. The company is generating millions of dollars in revenue. And then he takes it a step further. He starts investing heavily in new e-commerce technologies, pushing his business so far forward that it finally hits that staggering multi-billion-dollar valuation. But, as we all know, true wealth is really defined by what you do with it. At achieving this massive level of success, it didn't change Michael's core values at all. Actually, scratch that. It completely amplified them. He never forgot those old days. He remembered the struggles of his parents. He remembered the warehouse where he used to sweat for tuition money. So he gave back on a massive scale. He created this dedicated educational fund for low-income students to make sure they wouldn't have to struggle the way he did. He actively helped the homeless, and he ended up donating millions of dollars to various social projects, literally pouring his resources right back into the society that built him.
So, the crucial point is perfectly captured in an interview he gave later on in his career. He said, "Poverty didn't make me weak. It taught me to work hard. Failures didn't stop me. Rather, they made me stronger." I mean, wow. That is such a profound shift in perspective, right? He didn't view his tough circumstances as a cage holding him back. He viewed them as his training ground.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from today's explainer. A person's destination isn't determined by where they start, but by their struggle, their hustle, and their dedication. If you have a dream, the time to start working for it is quite literally right now. Success belongs to the people who refuse to bow down to difficulties, the ones who face them head-on. Michael didn't let his starting line define his finish line. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to chew on. What is stopping you today?